Evan, are you there? Tony, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Well, Evan, it looks like the crazy lady has struck again, but this is the Red Light Sports Ramble. I am Troy Otronovic, joined with Evan Watallison, and holy cow, Evan, I don't know what just happened there. Our theme song went out of whack. It started beeping all over. It's going to be one of those crazy days. Maybe it's the weather, because it's so warm in Pennsylvania, and I know it's warm out by you. So I don't know what's going on.
No, it's not. Not anymore.
Not anymore. Well, I think the crazy lady has struck already. So we'll just have to grin and bear it. At least we're on.
We have a big old slop bucket outside here.
Well, it's supposed to get that way a little bit later here in PA. And then, of course, we have a special guest today, Evan. It's Toni Lynn Starr, and she can sit there and rub it in our face that she is at Daytona. She is in the infield, and I'm sure it's beautiful weather down there compared to what we have up here in the Northeast and in the Midwest. But our guest today, Evan, is Toni Lynn Starr, and she has a site called FanaddictFemale.com. She's going to bring us the female perspective of NASCAR racing. We're going to ask her some questions that relate to the Daytona 500, a little bit of a preview. Just talk NASCAR today. We're finally bringing NASCAR to the Red Light Sports Ramble as February marks the return of NASCAR every year. So with that said, Toni, we welcome you to the show. And Evan, I'll let you start it off, bud.
Well, before we get into your site a little bit, I'm not as big of a fan as I used to be, but I used to be a huge NASCAR fan, and I remember exactly where I was and what I was doing back in 2001 when the unfortunate tragedy of Dale Earnhardt passing away happened, driving the number 3 car, and for the first time since that happened, the 3 car's back. So first, what is your thought of the 3 car being back in the Daytona 500? And how, what's the thought of other people around the Daytona 500? So what's your thought, and what's the collective thought that you've kind of heard?
Well, I'll think for you to ask me first. That is like the most controversial thing around here. I actually lose a lot of fans on Twitter and Facebook because I am in favor of the 3 car. I actually think it's wonderful to see that 3 out there and for everybody to remember Dale Earnhardt. But we also have to remember that that number belonged to Richard Childress, and there's quite a few drivers that have actually driven that number and also won the pole. I was actually fortunate enough to be there down at the pole celebration with Austin Dillon. He's one of our friends. We love them. So for you to ask me that, I'm very partial. I think those kids are great. The Dillon boys are absolutely fabulous. They're talented. They have their heads on straight. They have a great father. They have a great grandfather. And Richard Childress was just absolutely in all his glory. He ran over shaking our hand and saying, "Ain't that cool?" He was just so excited. And for me to see the number 3 out there, because I am a number 3 Dale Earnhardt fan, I always have been. And I think it's absolutely fabulous to see it back out there. I think to see that number retire. On the other hand, I can see the passion and understand the feelings of the true Dale Earnhardt fan. They think that number should have retired with him. But they also got to remember, I've studied up on this and read on it. Dale Earnhardt wanted that number to go on. So anybody that says that he didn't, they need to read further into it and see some of the things that Richard Childress had talked about with Dale Earnhardt before he passed away. There's a lot more to all this story. And bottom line, I am tickled to death. I love Austin Dillon. I love the Dillon boys. I love Richard Childress racing, and I think it's going to be fabulous for the sport. I think the fact that he won the pole might bring a lot of fans that have gone to the wayside, like you just said, Evan. A lot of people I know got away from NASCAR because of Rusty Wallace retiring, because of Dale Earnhardt passing on, and other drivers. So I think by Austin Dillon, this young kid that's got his head on straight and just full of talent, and he's got NASCAR running through his veins. I mean, he and Todd both they live to race, and they are I think they're great kids, and I think they're going to bring a lot of the fans back to the sport that we lost. That's my opinion. I love it.
Yeah, like you, I'm happy to see it back out there. And I used to love Dale Earnhardt. It's very sad when it happened. So like you, I'm glad to see it back.
Oh, good. I'm so happy. Good. I'm going to try to talk everybody into being happy about it, because I think it's wonderful, not only for Richard Childress but also for NASCAR. I think once some of the people that have left NASCAR, the sports fans, once they see that the number 3 is back out here and running strong, I think it'll get their interest enough peaked to take a look back at NASCAR and get hooked back on it again like they used to back when Dale Earnhardt was racing. I'm hoping that anyway. I've been a fan, and I came to Daytona International when I was 2 years old. My dad raced. I grew up. My mama had a dirt track in a little town called Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And I grew up. I was the Pepsi girl before Britney Spears was born. I used to pull the Pepsis at the concession stand. I mean, it was so. I grew up around racing, and I absolutely loved a song called "Fanatic Female Race Fan," and we went to Nashville and recorded it with George, Ellen Schreiber, some great people in Nashville. And Nashville opened. They had open arms for our whole. Country music and NASCAR go hand in hand. And so we bought a bus, and we're out here traveling the NASCAR circuit, and we're meeting all these great people, and in the business and out of the business. The fans out here are they're some of the best people that there are. They really are. They love the sport. And I hope NASCAR gets back to be where it was, back when Dale Earnhardt was here.
Well, I see it going that way, Toni, and before we move into some other things about the Daytona race itself, why don't you fill the fans in a little bit about the website that you have created, fanaddictfemale.com. Just fill them in a little bit about, what that site is about and really how you came about to create the site and what the purpose of it is.
Okay, well, what happened was I wrote this song called Fanatic Female Fan, Race Fan, and we knew some people who said, oh, my gosh, you should do something with this. There's a lot of race fans right there in Nashville in the music business. We went to town. We recorded it. We ended up doing a complete CD of all these songs. I also wrote the song for Danica, Little Go Daddy Girl, which we changed to Little Go Racing Girl because of licensing and stuff, legal stuff. But the album is just fun tailgate-type party songs. And it's not only for the female fan, it's also for the guys out there. But I'm mainly focused on the female fan because I thought the females were getting a little left out. When I go to the souvenir trailers and want to buy something for myself, this was back when Dale was here, there was only T-shirts, dye T-shirts, and then they might have a spaghetti strap T-shirt for the girls. And so I got a meeting with NASCAR, and they had just signed with an apparel company out in California. And we just kind of got together and said, okay, well, maybe we could do something for female fans. And we went out to Hollywood, and we met with some people out there. And that company went another way. So here I am back. But I continue to do things on my own. And I had a lot of people. There's people on the board of NASCAR who really believe in what I was doing. So we just kept on working, and it kind of snowballed into I have a bandolero, which allows the woman to wear whatever she wants to wear to the track, and then she can put on this sparkly sequin bandolero of orange, racing red, boogity blue, go-go green, whatever color that best represents her driver. So and this goes for football or any other sport for that matter too. We're actually getting into all that too. But we also have a perfume that's absolutely fabulous, and we have all the fun stuff. The CD is the main thing, the music, and now I'm writing a book about my story of how I grew up around the dirt tracks. My dad, I used to go out and help him handing tools while he was building his car for the dirt track when I was 3 and 4 years old. And I started singing to the radio, and my dad had a nightclub, so I actually started singing in that when I was 8. And it just went from there. I bought a bus and put a band together and started traveling. And I've always just had a good time. I'm really blessed and very fortunate to do what I do. I mainly love the production of things and the songwriting and that end. I'm not I'm not really into the wanting to get on stage and, you know, that kind of thing. But I love writing the songs and just producing all this stuff that makes the girls, they're actually the star. You know, when they put on the perfume or the Mandolero or they're singing with all the CDs, we did the name game and we added Dale Jr.'s name in there and some of the other drivers. And the thing that's so different about everything with Fanatic Female is it's not about me. It's not about some singer. It's all about the actual Fanatic Female race fan and her feeling like a star. And absolutely, I'll talk your ear off about it. I mean, your whole show will be nothing about but how I feel about these the women and their passion. These women out here are more passionate about their sport in NASCAR than a lot of the guys. And they actually know a lot more of the facts about racing, and especially about their race car driver. And I find that a lot of them are not just one driver. They have two or three, and it's more about who they don't like. You know, it's more like, oh, don't talk about this one because we don't like him than it is about they just have that one that they love. But it's a lot of fun. These girls are great out here.
Yeah, I was just taking a quick look at the site, and it's a great site. And as Troy said at the intro, it's fanaddictfemale.com. It's an awesome site. There's a nice store on here with the different things you can buy, and I'm definitely going to take a listen to some of the music that you're talking about. Give it a listen. Now, you attended your first Daytona 500 at age 2. Now, looking at looking at you've been there since age 2, what's your favorite memory of the Daytona 500?
Well, actually, this was my official first date with my husband. I was coming down to Daytona because Tanya Tucker, a friend of mine, was singing the anthem in 1996. And I had met this guy in Fort Lauderdale, and he was coming to the race. So we met here. This was our official first date 18 years ago. So I got to kind of say that that's my favorite time. You know, I guess I should say that that's my favorite time. But so I actually met him 18 years ago here, and then we ended up going to the Bahamas and with Tanya, my mom, her mom, and so probably my first date with my husband. We'll be married 18 years come September.
That's great. So yes,
you thought I was going to talk about a driver, right?
Oh well, you know, you probably got to go down that road.
About the drivers.
Like you said, that is probably the right thing to say. But
I'll say.
But
I think I should say that. I'll say this: that back in Speed, I'll tell you this little story. During Speed Week back in, I think it was 1987, 88, and 89. I would come down there was a club in Daytona called Finkies of Daytona, and they hired me out of Nashville, and I would come here and sing with their band for the full 2 weeks every night. And that was a blast because like 3,000 people would come into this club every night. Burt Reynolds, T.G. Shepard, all the drivers, Bill Elliott. Probably my favorite memory of that is, you're going to love this, the little girl that was supposed to represent Finkies. I had gotten upset at the owner, and she wasn't going to show up at the track, and I just happened to be there at rehearsals, and he was like, hey, do you want to be Miss Finky out at the track? And I was like, sure, but what do I have to do? She had a little song on. I was like, I don't have to wear that, do I? You know? And they were like, no, you just go represent the club at the Daytona 500 Finkies. I was like, oh, sure, I would love to do that. So that was the first time that when I got here, Richard Petty met me, and he took me around and introduced me to everybody, all the drivers, and I got to represent Finky's Club of Daytona, which everybody knew because that was like the hot place to go to, the best band and stuff in town. So I got to be right on pit road with the king, Richard Petty, and so that was just that's where I realized I was the fanatic female. When they started those engines, and I was like, oh my gosh. It was just awesome. So I went back to Nashville and I bought a Charlie One Horse hat because Richard Petty had one on, and I wore that thing everywhere with my boots. And I actually have it signed by him now. I've seen him later and told him that story. So I can actually say I guess Richard Petty and Finky are the ones who are responsible for me actually getting more into NASCAR.
Wow. So let's stay kind of on the female side. I mean, there is a female driver in the field, and you even made a song about Danica Patrick. So when you look at that, what has she done for the sport in general, in your opinion? You know, when you look at it, what has she brought to NASCAR?
Oh, my God. Okay, once again, so controversial because there's so many people that are like, oh, she's never going to win. I guess you heard that Richard Petty had said the only way she's going to win is show up or goes home. To me, I think Danica, I mean, you know, she won the Japan race. She won the pole here last year. I think she has a great chance, and absolutely, nothing would make me happier than on the last lap if it was Austin Dillon and Danica coming around the turn 4, you know, going for the finish line. And Danica won. Boys, you know, that girls can do it. I'm kind of that girl that's, you know, girl power. You know, we can do anything y'all can do. And she's awesome. I mean, I've met her, and she's as a person, I think she is so dedicated. She is talented. She loves her fans. She loves NASCAR. She's having a blast here at NASCAR. She actually comes to eat with us and some friends of ours, with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And we've got to know her because she's wonderful. But as far as a driver, I think she has everything it takes. I think if she has the equipment and she has everything behind her, I think people better look out for her. She could be the dark horse here. I'm hoping.
Well, I think, you know.
Yeah, I would.
Oh, go ahead.
I would definitely like to see her do well.
I was just.
Go ahead, Troy. I was just going to comment. I'd like to see her do well.
Well, and I'm on that side. You know, I'm not looking at male, female. If you can race, you can race. And being a NASCAR guy, and like I said, I'm a Matt Kenseth guy, so I'll watch some races, and not as much as I used to, just due to life situations. But you know, I'll sit down and I'll watch a NASCAR race, and my dad is a NASCAR fanatic. And not to get into that, I'll get into that later. But when I look at Danica Patrick last year, it just seemed like she had a lot of bad luck. So, you know, cars breaking down, a flat tire here, blown engine there. She was running well in a few races, and it just had a lot of bad luck. But I'm with you. I think she has some talent, and it's just a matter of time before she pulls off one of these wins. And you know, I'll be supporting her. I think that she, like you said, she has all the intangibles to be a good race car driver, regardless of being a man or a woman. When you look at her and when she conducts herself in interviews and all the things she does around the track, she conducts herself like a race car driver. And that's what, you know, to me, you know, you look at all the women before her, maybe it was more of that glamour and all that. But when you look at Danica Patrick, you know, yes, she got the GoDaddy commercials, and, you know, she's a good-looking female, but she has all the racing intangibles, and that's why I support her, because she's not just a pretty face in a race car. She actually has the racing intangibles to actually do well in NASCAR.
She's a race. She's like the Dillon boys.
She's not just a pretty face that happens to be driving a car. She's she's just somebody who's driving a car that happens to have a pretty face. You know, like as Troy said, I think she just had a lot of bad luck last year. Now going back to the race. Oh, go ahead.
I'll just go to that though. You know, there's other girls out there too besides Danica that are making a name for themselves around here. Jennifer Jo Cobb is wonderful. The Cole twins, I don't know, you know, how much they're going to be racing this year. I haven't heard anything from them lately. But there are girls that people think that they're just being a pretty face because they walk around here in heels or whatever. But they're there to race in their defense. I mean, if there's a girl that wasn't, I would be the first one to tell you that, oh, well, she's just using this, you know. But there are a lot of girls out here that are, I think you're going to see a lot more of that, I think is what I'm trying to say, because of Danica. I think she's kind of, I know that there's others before her, but I think Danica has kind of kicked the door in a lot wider to make girls realize that they can do it more than, 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah, like I said, I would love to see her, granted it would be, going against the guy I'm rooting for in Matt Kenseth, but I would love to see her pull off the victory on Sunday. Now, speaking of pulling off the victory on Sunday, looking at the field, who you're rooting for to win and who's your favorite to win?
Daytona 500. Well,
Yeah, like who are you rooting for, and then who do you think's going to win?
Okay, well, naturally, I would love to see that 3 car because I think a lot of people that have been against the 3, against Austin driving the 3, I think if he won, it would show them that he does have the talent to do this, and that they would think that he deserves to sit in that seat. So I think Austin Dillon, and I've been a fan of his for years.
You still there?
I think we may have lost service. You're cutting out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
cutting.
you know.
Yeah, you were cutting out for a little
Okay.
bit, Tony.
All right.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, it comes and goes because I remember I'm in the middle of the infield here, and it depends. They're getting ready to do the duels tonight. You know that, right?
Yep.
On
Yep.
Thursday night, we're doing the duels here. It starts at 6:30, so sometimes the power. I was hoping that we could talk though before they started doing that. But anyway, so to answer your question, I would love to see Austin Dillon win or Danica. Naturally, those are 2 of my favorites. I love the sport. So to ask me that, I think every driver in their own right, even the ones that I'm not particularly fond of, some of the things that they do that I think goes against the sport some, they're still good for the sport because they get the controversy out there. They get, the people talking about it. That's what makes our sport is the people that are for and against certain drivers, and they have this little rivalry going. I think that's what everybody loves out here in the fan zones, where they are. But Jimmy Johnson, come on. Any of the Hendricks boys, Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, they're awesome. Casey Kane. Gosh, there's so many. Matt Kenseth, you mentioned. There's so many that are capable. Who I would like to see is absolutely Austin Dillon or Danica.
Well, it'll be a tough feat for Austin. When I did a little bit of research, I looked back, and to win the Daytona from the pole is not very common at Daytona. There's only been, if I look at the list, I believe there's only 10 winners from the pole. So he's got a tough feat, to be able to go out there and do that. But
Exactly.
People think you get the pole, that doesn't guarantee a win, especially at Daytona, because it doesn't happen very often. But since Evan and I are both Wisconsin boys, what are your thoughts, and what is the maybe a little bit of the fan reaction about Matt Kenseth? What do you hear? I just know Matt Kenseth through a little bit of following him on Twitter and interviews. You're around it a little bit more, but what do you know about Matt Kenseth?
Oh, he's one of the better drivers out here, and he has as many fans as anybody. I hear his name a lot out here. I think he's fabulous for the sport. I think he is very talented, and what can you say? There's nothing bad that you can say about Matt Kenseth. I don't think I've ever heard anything bad about him. He's fabulous. There's nothing else I can say. It's all good about him. It's all good. He's dedicated. He's talented. He has the equipment. He has the race team. You're behind a good boy. He's great. He's great.
Yeah, Kenseth, I'm originally from Madison. He's from Cambridge, and that's pretty close to one another. So I know he's, around the Madison area quite all the time. I would love to see him win the Daytona 500. I know he fell just short of the points title this past year, but I'd love to see him win the Daytona 500. And I guess I'll give my obviously I'm rooting for Kenseth to win, and then Danica as well. But I just think that last year's winner Jimmy Johnson is going to repeat. He just always seems to run well at Daytona, and I just think he's going to repeat. What are your thoughts on Jimmy? You there?
Well, we may have lost a little bit. When Toni comes back, we'll get her thoughts on Jimmy, Evan. So in the meantime, I'll give you what of course, I'm cheering for Matt Kenseth too. He's a 2-time winner. Hopefully he can win his 3rd. That's my heart pick. My heart pick is Matt Kenseth. But when I look at the race and I look at qualifying and things of that nature, my top 5 when I went through and did a little bit of evaluating, I'll mark it down. We'll see how close I am. I'm usually not very good at picking the top 5 in NASCAR, but I'm picking Ryan Newman to win the Daytona 500. I think he's going to be followed by Jeff Gordon. I think Jimmy Johnson's going to come in third. I think he's going to give a strong push. He's always there, like you said, Evan. I think the 4th place is going to be Keselowski. And then in 5th place, I think Kyle Busch is going to come from the 21st position, and I think he's going to make a strong push. I just have this feeling this year that Kyle Busch is going to have a wonderful year. You know, I know some people love him, some people hate him. That's a NASCAR theme, though. People love or hate drivers. And I don't know if Toni's got reception back, but she had related to it a little bit before. There's a lot of rivalry in NASCAR, and it seems like it's even more than football, baseball. I mean, these people sometimes outright really get livid about not liking somebody else. So, Toni, did you get reception back yet?
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're just going to...
Okay, yeah, you are exactly right. And Kyle Busch is the top one, too. People either love him or they hate him. And I mean, and you can't deny his talent. Oh my gosh. He is super talented, and but it is absolutely the way you said. They either love him or hate him.
Yeah, he does things in a race car that are just just unbelievable. Go ahead, Evan.
The question I was asking before you cut out last, I'm predicting Jimmy Johnson to win. I just wanted to get your thoughts on Jimmy Johnson.
So are you asking me?
Yeah, just your thoughts on Jimmy Johnson in general. That's what I was saying. Most drivers, fans either love or they dislike. So I just want to get your thoughts on Mr. Johnson, on what you think his chances are at winning.
Oh, I think his chances are good on winning. I mean, anytime you got Jimmy Johnson there, I mean, he's all the Hendricks boys. I mean, it's absolutely fabulous. I mean, and he has a lot of fans out here. Yeah, a lot of people love Jimmy. I think he has a great chance to win.
Yeah, well, he's been very, very successful. And so, of course, with success comes a lot of fan base. But, he's one of those guys, I think, some people hate him just because he wins so much. I've talked to a lot of people, and they're like, well, I hate that guy because he's always winning. And so, I get a lot of that when I'm talking NASCAR with people. Well, I hate so-and-so because they always win. I want to see somebody else win. But, as you look at the season this year, Toni, I mean, it looks like it's a pretty, the race for the point title looks like it's pretty deep this year. And like you said before, seems to be a lot of competition this year. And I don't think anybody's going to run away with it. What are your thoughts on the overall season, not just Daytona, but when you look at the season as a whole, you're going to be following them around the circuit. Do you have a favorite to win the points?
90 seconds.
Or do you think it's going to be pretty close all the way down to the end?
Here's what I think. I think that they changed a lot with the qualifying and everything. There's a lot of different rules, and I'm not really sure exactly how all that's going to play into it. But I think it is going to make a difference. And I think even Jimmy Johnson said, I think they changed up a few of these rules so it wouldn't be so easy for me to run away with this. So I think you're going to see a big shakeup, and a lot of people
60
win that maybe
seconds.
you haven't seen. And maybe that's where Danica can sneak in there too. I do think you're exactly right. It's going to be not just so dominated by the same person this year. It's going to be very interesting. Very interesting.
With that, being said, we're almost out of time. I just want to say a quick thank you for being on the show. It's been a pleasure having you here, and I hope you enjoy the weekend in Daytona.
Thank you guys so much. And I got to say a big hot hello to Vicki, who had told you about me, and thank her for referring y'all to me. Anytime you want to call. We are at the
10 seconds.
race, and you want a particular view or maybe an interview with somebody, just give me a call. I would love to. It's been a pleasure being with you guys.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, thanks to Vicki for definitely referring us over to you. We like your insight. We hope everybody has a chance to go check out your website. Which again it's fanaddictfemale.com. thank you for coming on the show. We truly appreciate it. And we'll take you up on that offer to give you a call, especially if you're going to be at all the races. And we definitely want to add some NASCAR to the Red Light Sports Ramble. But with that said, everyone, we hope you enjoyed the show today. We hope you enjoyed listening to Tony talk. With that said, everyone, we'll see you at the next red light. We'll get back at you tomorrow.